some of this might be review for everybody, but I'm trying to make an assumption that nobody in this room knows anything about statistics. I think that's the only way to do it, or people are going to get lost. So awesome. So I'm going to go over the bare bone basics. And if you already know this stuff, I'm going to close that door. If you already know this stuff, I apologize, but you'll have to bear with me. You'll have to bear with me, and then we will get to the more complex stuff. I need quiet. I'm gonna have, starting next week, it's probably going to be stuff that you've never seen before. There's probably going to be quite a bit of it, unless you work in statistics and know how to run statistical tests, because that's where we're getting the base of the knowledge to run a statistical test, which is what you're here for. So this first part, most simple thing that you can pull from a statistics standpoint is the mode. So the mode is the most repeated value. So down here you'll see there is an example. My mouse keeps getting lost. Okay, so the example down here, batting averages, you'll see that the blue highlighted ones are repeated the most. That means that's the mode. It's that simple. We don't use it all that often. You could use something like this if you generally look for repeated values in your data. So that's when you would use here. But that is the mode. Okay, so calculating the mean. This is probably the only formula I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you the formulas for other things, but this, I found that when except for the real basic things, calculating things on my own, which I never do, I never calculate this by hand, doesn't really help people all that much. With this particular example, I think it will. But when we go into running a t-test, I've had teachers and it's somewhat complex, had teachers make me run it by hand. And what did that teach me? Absolutely nothing. So I'm going to try not to do that. So we have down here, so if you're finding a mean, and we use this all the time, these are the descriptive statistics from here on in that I use all the time. I use them regularly. They're simple, but I use them in my job every day. So if we're finding the mean, central tendency, as we'll show here, it's basically trying to estimate what the center of your data is. So we are seeing in the mode, we're looking at the most repeated value. So mean, it's trying to, in this case, it adds up all your data points. So 0.220, 0.3, and so on and so forth. It'll sum all of your data points and then divide by the number of data points that are in the top. So that's the mean. That's really the only thing that I'm going to go through and show you the formula. Average and mean are the same thing. They're interchangeable. So average would, in Excel, that's what it's called. Mean and average are the same thing. Statisticians usually call it the mean. So the next thing that we use all the time is the median. So it's going to be your center value. So if you sort your values from smallest to largest, say, as you see down here, you'll see that we have 5 values in our data set. So when it's an odd number, it's just the center value, the one right in the middle. That is the median. If you have an even number of values, it's a little more complicated. So if you have even, we have 6 values here. The middle 2 are 3 and 4. Then to find the median, you have to then find the average of 3 and 4. So add those 2 values and divide by 2. So that will be your median in that case. So we are going to run this after I go over all of these terms. We're actually going to go into the data, and I wrote code so you could run this on a data set and see what it looks like. But I'm going to go over all the material, so I'm not switching back and forth first. And please stop me if you have any questions. Okay. So now this is when we're going to go into the R code. So I'm going to escape out of this. So open RStudio and the code that I just had you input data into. My computer froze. Lovely. There we go. It's just slow. Okay, so we're going to go into RStudio. So I'm assuming all of you have run these two commands. So I'm going to run. I think the recording is slowing down my computer. Yeah. So, but you'll see on the code down here, hopefully I might not run this. Okay, here we go. So I put those data sets in here. We're going to run what I just showed you. So the data set that you load in there has a lot of global, like by country values. So the one I'm going to have you look at here is the mean number of years of schooling that men in the world that are 25 years or older have had in 2009. We're also going to look at the women. And this, sorry, I apologize. I must not have, this is one of those control find things. So the second one, add that WO. We're going to look at men and we're going to look at women and see what how they differ and how the data looks when we look at them side by side. So I'm going to run this first line and we're going to see this is what will come up when you run that. So the mean number of years of schooling that men have across the globe when we average all the countries together is 8.3 or 8.28. So that's what we're seeing with men. So that is the mean, and that's the one where we add all our values and divide by the number of values that we have. We're going to look at the median here. So 7.7 is the median. I'm going to talk more about why these two numbers differ in a little bit, but we'll see that here. And if you're wondering why they're different, we'll get to that. So that's what we're seeing for men. Oh, so yeah, I put men up here and women down here. So that was why it was showing men. So make sure the top two are men, bottom two are women. So now we're looking at women. So we saw up here that the mean for men was 8.28 in 2009. The mean for women is 7.3. So on average around the globe, women are getting less years of education than men, and that probably wouldn't surprise you. Because this has poor countries, it has more industrialized countries in it as well. Okay. And then if we run the median, it's 7.7. So if we look from women down here, I'm going to just run this again because I got a little bit confused in here. So I just reran that. So the mean, 8.28. The median is 8.3. Down here, we're seeing 7.3 for women for the mean and 7.7 for the median. And again, I got a little confused with my own code. I should have commented it better. That's why we use comments. So the first two should be men. The second two should be women. Okay, so that is how I find mean every time I do it, or I do a package that finds a whole bunch of descriptive statistics at the same time. That's another thing. I'll be showing you the output of some of that. It's summary, just like this mean is in here, and then you would put in the variable that you have, and you'll see that later. So I am going to stay in PowerPoint as this should be visible to you guys. I'm going to be going back and forth now. So I'm made it as big as it can look here, but since I'm going to be going back and forth, I need to keep it here. Okay.